Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what's unique about this hearing is that we agree we have a problem. A problem exists with affordable housing in America. And now the question becomes, how do we find the right solutions to address that problem? And I don't know that I would agree that a blank check approach is the only approach we could have to making sure housing works for our families and our communities. And with Mr. Cleaver, I would agree there's different problems in different parts of the country. And in inner cities and rural America, I think we have different and unique problems that face those kind of communities, and all should be addressed. But I want to go to maybe Mr. Carter. You said you do some of your work in Southern California?
Yes, sir.
Could you lay out for us some of the challenges that you face with zoning and regulation as you try to do projects in Southern California?
Well, I think the first one is density. How big will it be? And that's because that obviously drives the economics of the project, is density. And I think second is...
What do you say density is? When you're trying to get approvals, is that a problem, the density of your project?
Yes, whether it's 200 units or 150 units. Obviously, the more density, we can make it cheaper per unit. And then the pushback is, well, you're going to add more people, and there's more mitigation that you have to do with roads and things like that. So it's a back and forth process.
But finding that sweet spot of getting the right density to get the right price for the most people is an important consideration.
Yes,
for you.
sir.
Right? And maybe to stick on that point before you maybe lay out some other things for us. Obviously, we have a crisis in Southern California, and specifically in LA. The chair has talked about this. There's a homelessness problem in LA that we have to address, and I've heard her on that point, and she's a great advocate for the homeless. But if we could make housing more affordable, that could potentially reduce the number of people who can't afford homes and are on the streets. And so does those leaders in LA partner with you and clear the way and cut the red tape to allow you to do more of your projects to drive down the cost of housing and serve more people?
Many try, and a lot of what we're able to succeed at in many places like Los Angeles and around the country are preservation of older properties that have potentially are falling out of the housing supply because they need renovations. And so we generally...
Are these dense? Is this a dense supply, or is this like single family?
No, this would be an existing apartment community that might have some challenges and is run down, and that we acquire and renovate. And I think the gentleman, the point about displacement, I mean, one of the things that we try to do in our investments is to retain 75 to 80% of the existing residents when we do an acquisition and a rehab, because we have found, and the other thing that we found, that the model of mixed income communities really work, and that's one of the things we've got to figure out how to do, where we're not segregating low-income people all in one place.
So maybe let's, beyond the land costs and maybe the labor costs, is it no more expensive to build in LA compared to other parts of the country that you work in because of rules and regulations? Are they pretty good on rules and regulations?
No, I would say it costs. We have two properties that we're working on right now. It's similar spec. One is $500,000 a unit to build. We're looking at it in the state of Michigan, and it's $250,000.
So half the price.
Yes.
And I guess that's my point. And if those costs come to bear on the zoning, on the regulatory side, in the local communities, and those same local communities are having problems with homelessness and affordable housing, don't we start to say, hey, Congress, you guys might have to spend some more money? But shouldn't we also be putting pressure on local communities to say, streamline this stuff so we can help you fix your problem?
Absolutely.
Right?
Congressman Duffy, can I respond to that
Sure.
as well? So absolutely, I agree that we have to look at zoning and land use regulations that are driving up the cost of any type of housing, or even prohibiting any kind of multifamily housing from being built, which is raising costs for everyone. That is an essential piece of the puzzle to solving the housing crisis. Even were we to do so, when we do so, I think we already heard our colleagues from the home builders, we've heard economists and others agree that those homeless households that you referenced in LA will not find housing that's affordable to them. So while we have to do what we can to eliminate restrictive zoning, lower costs for everybody, that affordability will not trickle down to the lowest income households. For them, government subsidy, government intervention
But making
is
sure we can have
essential.
affordable houses, affordable housing for
It's
more
all part of
people,
the spectrum,
make sure we
absolutely.
have less people who are on the streets. And so I agree with you, but my point is, this has to be a holistic approach. And I was going to get to Ms. Todman, because in her testimony, she cited a study that actually references back to the cost of regulation in these projects. And again, I'm about, what are the dollars? What are the regulation? How do we look at this in the 21st century with new data, new information, and a new vision?
The
I yield
gentleman from
back.
Florida, Mr. Lawson.